Today we just tap a piece of plastic or double-click our phones to pay for our morning coffee, and we don't even think twice about it. We've abstracted away the actual exchange of value so completely that we rarely stop to ask ourselves what value actually is. Was it always paper notes, metal coins, or digital pings? What is the underlying mechanic that actually allows human beings to trade, specialize, and ultimately survive? Because honestly, the answer to where money came from is a really fascinating reflection of human ingenuity. Welcome to today's Explainer. We're going to trace a brilliant problem and solution journey through human history. Think of this as an investigation into the mechanics of human trust, looking at how our ancestors fundamentally changed the way we interact and cooperate at scale. Okay, let's dive right into this. Section 1. The barter system problem. Direct exchange. So our journey begins thousands of years ago, way before money even existed. People obviously still needed things they couldn't produce themselves, right? The original solution was pretty straightforward. Imagine a farmer who grows rice, but really needs some meat. He'd go find a shepherd and just directly trade his rice for the shepherd's goats. But this relied on what economists call a double coincidence of wants. You didn't just have to find someone who had what you wanted, that person also had to want exactly what you were offering. In small, tight-knit tribal communities where everyone knew each other, this actually worked out okay. This whole era was defined by the barter system, literally just the direct exchange of goods between parties. There's no cash, no credit, just my goods for your goods. For a while, this baseline economic system fostered a lot of immediate community trust. You looked your trading partner in the eye, agreed on the value of the items, and that was that. But as tribes grew into villages and villages into early cities, well, this lack of scalability became a massive roadblock. Because think about it, what if you're that farmer again? You want fish, so you haul your heavy sacks of rice all the way to the fisherman, but he already has plenty of rice. What he desperately wants is wool. Now you're stuck in this ridiculous logistical nightmare. You have to go find a weaver who wants rice, trade your rice for wool, lug that wool back to the fisherman, and finally get your fish. Or worse, maybe you have to trade a goat for shoes, just to trade the shoes for a hammer, to trade the hammer for fish. Trading just became this incredibly difficult, frustrating, and time-consuming puzzle. Which brings us to Section 2. Rise of commodity money. Valuable items. To solve all this immense friction, human ingenuity kicked in. People realized they needed something everyone would accept, even if they didn't need it right away. So they started assigning value to widely accepted everyday items, and different places used completely different things, which is super interesting. Salt was huge because it preserved meat before refrigeration was a thing. It was actually so valuable that Roman soldiers were paid in it, which is literally where we get the modern word salary. In other regions, they used things like cocoa beans because they were hard to grow, creating this natural economic scarcity. By using these universally desired items, trade got dramatically smoother. Section 3. The first metal coins. A reliable solution. But let's be real, hauling around sacks of salt or driving actual herds of cattle to the market brings its own set of problems. You can't exactly fit a cow in your pocket when you just want to buy a loaf of bread. We desperately needed a solution to these random, hard-to-transport commodities. That next big leap happened about 2,600 years ago. The Lydians, who lived in what is now modern-day Turkey, are widely credited with creating the very first standardized metal coins. These early currencies were forged from precious, durable metals, like a naturally occurring alloy of gold and silver called electrum. But here's the catch. A lump of silver or electrum still has to be carefully weighed and tested for purity every single time you make a trade. So the true game changer? That was when these pieces of metal were stamped by rulers to prove their value. This introduced the concept of seigniorage, basically the ruler's monopoly on minting. By pressing an official royal seal into the metal, the ruler guaranteed its weight and purity. And this fundamentally shifted how society operated. The burden of trust transferred from the metal itself over to the monarch. You didn't have to weigh the silver anymore. You just had to trust the king. All right, Section 4, the shift to paper, a lightweight solution. Of course, as global economies kept expanding and trade routes got longer and longer, a brand new logistical problem popped up. Carrying massive bags of heavy metal coins across continents, not just incredibly inconvenient, but actually really dangerous. So paper money was introduced as the perfect lightweight solution. During the Tang and Song dynasties in China, merchants started using promissory notes. They actually had a beautiful name for them, flying cash. This let merchants leave their heavy copper coins with a trusted agent and travel light, holding only a piece of paper that represented their wealth.
From China, this incredibly convenient form of currency eventually spread across the whole globe.
But pause and think about the massive psychological shift this required. Paper itself doesn't inherently have the same value as a gold or silver coin, right? So why did it actually work? Simple, because governments guaranteed its value. We moved completely away from the intrinsic value of precious metals and replaced it with representative trust. This right here is the birth of fiat money, money by decree. It took a massive leap of faith from the public to trust an institution or a government entity rather than a physical asset you could literally hold in your hand. The paper was trusted simply because the collective society and the government stood behind it.
And that leads us straight into Section 5, digital money and beyond, changing once again.
Fast forward to today, and the very nature of money is transforming yet again. We're moving from a physical object you hold into a completely invisible force. Debit cards, mobile banking, digital wallets. In so many places around the world right now, you can buy almost anything without carrying a single paper note or metal coin. Value is now literally just data moving across servers. If you think about it, we've gone from trusting a physical good like salt, to trusting a monarch's face on a coin, to a government's promise on paper, to now trusting complex cryptographic algorithms and global banking networks.
So, to recap, we started out in Era 1, trading goats and grain in the barter system. We leveled up to Era 2 with commodity money. Then Era 3 brought us standard metal coins. Era 4 introduced that lightweight paper money. And now we're firmly planted in Era 5, the age of digital money. But what this whole arc truly represents isn't just the evolution of currency, it's the evolution of human trust. Every single leap forward was really just a new way for humans to cooperate more efficiently at a much, much larger scale.
Money has clearly come an incredibly long way, but as technology continues to evolve at breakneck speed, you have to ask yourself, how much more digital will the future of money become? Are we heading toward a completely invisible, cashless chapter of human history, where value is exchanged entirely through biometrics or decentralized networks? It's definitely a fascinating question to chew on the next time you tap your phone to pay for something. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep learning, and I'll catch you next time.